I met a lady named Connie in the post office, and she offered to drive me back to the trail. She dropped me off at Sunflower, at the barbed wire fence with the concrete blocks. I hiked through green meadows with gold fields and through cactus rock gardens filled with carpets of flowers. The trail climbed gently into a canyon with a flowing creek, then up into chaparral and old burn areas. It was very hot, and sweat poured from my face. I felt a bit weakened and disoriented from the sudden change in the weather, but my legs felt strong. I drank a lot of water and lemonade, and my stomach did not feel much like eating. The trail wound around in creek beds or climbed into chaparral. It was all a bit Los Padres like. When I got to Cornucopia, a man named Burgess was getting ready to camp in the small flat area by the creek. It had cooled down a bit in the 5 o'clock hour, so I made Whiskey Spring Junction my new goal.
I've made it to mile 400, halfway.
When I arrived, there was a small campsite next to the trail above a very small, quiet creek. Home for the night, even though I'm only inches from the trail.
you can see the four peaks out there. Let me zoom in. And then you can see the trail kind of going along there. And I've walked all the way and across this little saddle here. And you can see it again right in there. Yeah. All the way around the mountain.
Today was an exhausting day. There was a lot of climbing. There was some descending and traversing, but that felt like climbing too.
I don't know if you can see it, but way out there is a huge snowy mountain. That might be the Mount Humphreys, the one that's near Flagstaff. Wow.
There was some snow to walk on. I took many breaks and nobody came up behind me. I drank a lot of water and never felt satisfied. I ate all day and never felt any energy. It was hot and mostly boring, except for a few interesting places with cliffs and streams. I stopped at one stream and sat in the water. I really wanted to do more miles than this, but 12 hours of hiking got me only 20.5 miles. I'm 1.5 miles from a stream, and I hope I don't drink all the water I have now before I get there tomorrow. I'm camped in some manzanita bushes on a saddle. I hope the wind doesn't get too strong. It's 35 miles to Pine, so I will definitely spend another night out here before I get there. My camp in the manzanita was very warm. I woke up drenched in sweat. As soon as my alarm went off, I got up. I didn't want to waste any cool morning moments. I was off by 5:30 a.m.
So that's the Mogollon Rim. You can kind of see it over there too.
The trail mostly descended for 14 miles down to the East Verde River. It was often slow going on slippery, rocky trail. Now and then the trail went straight up. I stopped to get water often and drank a lot because it was hot.
Oh man, I have to cross this river. Oh, I don't know about this. Oh boy. The last comments in Far Out said, oh, totally non-threatening. But I'm feeling kind of threatened. Oh my God. It's a lake. And I'm all by myself.
After half an hour or more, a man came bounding up while I was packing my sleeping bag and electronics into a plastic bag in case I went swimming. I watched him bound right into the water. It soon went up to his waist. I told him I was frightened because any time water was that deep, I floated away. He wandered in the center of the river and assured me it was shallow and sandy. I decided to follow him. The water felt cool and refreshing. I walked in the center, headed upstream, following the man as he searched for a shallower edge to get out. I pointed to a grassy beach. He got out there, but the water was deep. It went to my crotch. He helped me out, and I thanked him. I continued on into the afternoon. I climbed steeply to a mesa. I enjoyed walking on the mesa. It had a Hat Creek Rim vibe about it. I stopped at a big juniper tree to take my sleeping bag out of the plastic bag and lay it in the sun. It felt still damp from my own sweat this morning. I also retrieved my electronics. I packed everything just right and continued on.
Well, guys, is this the Mexican standoff? There's some over there. Go ahead. Come on. Go ahead. Go follow your buddies, your babies, whatever they are. There we go. Your turn.
I sauntered along the lumpy trail on the pretty mesa, mostly staring at my feet. The rocks often resembled bones. They looked like skulls and hip joints, balls and sockets. It made me think how we are made of bone, like this rock. This rock, this earth, we are one with it. All shapes the natural forms of the minerals and water and time. I set off into the early morning darkness, and the visions of myself marching deftly to the creek and into the miles ahead were met with the lurching, stumbling reality of the rocks and lumps in the trail. The going was clumsy and slow. The trail climbed and meandered sort of aimlessly. I could not figure out what it was trying to do. The scenery was pretty, with junipers and the views of the Mazatzals and mesas all around. There were many sweet little flowers growing in the rocks. They looked like tiny white bridal bouquets. At long last the town came into view. The trail stepped up the punishment with more rocks, and then finally with a large swollen creek that required my feet to get wet. I looked at my map, and it looked to me if I stayed on my side of the bank I could walk upstream to West Bradshaw Drive, where surely there would be a bridge or some way to keep my feet dry, and sure enough there was. It was amazing how fast a hike can end. You never know when your last night on trail is going to be. I already missed the trail. This has been the most amazing experience and beautiful trail. I loved being a hiker again. I did everything right. I felt strong and happy. I enjoyed almost every single minute of it. I hope I can return in the fall and finish it. The next morning began a slow unraveling of my identity as a hiker and the beginning feelings of grief that it was over. I knew I had to go home. There was too much snow and ice on the Mogollon Rim. Everyone was going home. I went around town saying goodbye to my friends and trying to figure out what to do with all my sharp things. Tears fell as I tried to find places to while away the time before my shuttle would come. I wanted to be with my friends, but I also didn't want to see them anymore because it was coming to an end and the goodbyes were becoming awkward and maudlin. It was time to accept I'd reached the end of this wonderful experience.